Peace and blessings, budget fam. This is your girl Jay with Lenore Budgets, and in today's video I am going to show you how I close out my previous pay period and start and set up the next pay period. So I've talked about this on my channel, but I've never actually shown you my process, so that's what we're doing today. If that's something you're interested in, please keep watching. Alrighty, so it is Thursday, February 17th. My next pay period starts tomorrow on Friday, February 18th. So per usual, I am going to sit down and actually close out the February 4th pay period, and I'm going to show you my process for that. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so this is basically the equivalent of me going through my cash envelopes. If I was one of those budgeters that actually pulled cash out of the bank and stuffed cash envelopes, this is essentially me going over what I have left in those envelopes and determining whether I'm going to roll over or what I'm going to do with what's left. Okay, so I am cashless, however, so all of this is done in writing and the money is still in the bank, but I still need to track it because I still need to make sure that I zero out my checking account in preparation for payday tomorrow. Okay, so these numbers down here are numbers that you have already seen before if you watched my budget with me for February 4th, then these numbers you are already familiar with. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go to my expense tracker. Okay, and I think I need to zoom out a little bit, so let me do that. Okay, so these numbers basically match what essentially what I put in my envelopes. So let's see here. So for 2/4, you can't see that, but for 2/4 I gave myself $200. It's nothing different. It's $100 per pay period. And then I also had $100 for my car and $100 for self-care. So again, this is just like me putting cash in envelopes and going over what I have left. So guys, this past week, the past 2 weeks was pretty rough. I know one thing I know about myself is that I'm an emotional eater and an emotional spender. Okay, so if I have a stressful or a bad week, it just makes me want to eat and shop. It's just the way I am. So I actually went over budget this week. I have not done that in a very long time, but I actually went over because if you look, so let's look at my spending cash envelope, so to speak. I started out with $200. There was a lot of eating out going on. There's a few purchases that I made. I had to run to Walgreens and make a Target run, but most of this is eating out. That's not unusual for me because I do tend to it's easier for me sometimes to just pick things up on the go. But when I do eat out, I usually only eat out once a day. Maybe sometimes on the weekend, I may eat out for breakfast as well. But usually when I do eat out, it's only once a day. So it's not like I'm eating out 3 meals a day. Most of the time it's only one, but still it's eating out. It's me going through somebody's fast food drive-through. So if you see here, I actually had some credits, which I don't normally have. My insurance wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be, so I added $7.79 to my spending allowance. And also, if you've watched previous videos, you know that any credits I receive between pay periods, I normally hold those credits and include them in my next budget. Well, because I went over budget, I actually got a cashback credit that came in this week, and I went ahead and gave it to myself. It was $32.81, and I went ahead and put it in my spending because prior to that I was at $2.15 basically left in this envelope, and I had a couple days left that I still needed to be able to, that I still needed money to spend. So I went ahead and gave myself that credit. That's how bad it was, guys. Like I said, I normally don't go over my 200, but it's been an eventful and stressful week. So I went ahead and gave myself that credit just so that I wouldn't be tapping into anything else. And then I finished up my week. So basically, what I have left out of my $200 is $2.63. Okay. So then for my car, I started out with $100. I got gas, which was $38.72. That left me with $61.28. And then self-care, I started out with $100. And I actually spent $90, and that left me with $10. So that is what I have left over. So now what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to kind of, like figure out what we're going to do with what's left. So today is the 17th, and for this one, I am going to actually add this remaining $2.63 to my buffer, which will zero this out. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to transfer this in my online banking app, transfer this over to my buffer account, and that will close out the $200 for for February 4th pay period. Okay. Over here. Now, let's see, for my car, I have $61.28 left. So I typically don't roll over more than 50. So let's go ahead, because I'm going to go ahead and roll over 50. So today's 2/17. I am going to roll over $50, which leaves me with $11.28. Okay. So since I have my new 1K challenge for my car payment, for principal payment on my car payment, and $10 would come in handy for that. And once I show you that 1K challenge that I'm doing in the next video, then you can see why this $10 is significant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give the 1K challenge, I'm going to give that $10, which will leave me with $128. And then that $128 I am going to roll over to my buffer, and that will bring that to a zero. Okay, so far, and I put this post-it note at the bottom just so that I could keep track of what I have going on. So 263 is going to my buffer, and so is the 128. So just real quick, because that's pretty much going to be it. Just real quick, let's see, 2.63 plus 1.28. That is $391. So that is a total of what's going into my buffer, because the $10 that I have left in self-care, I am going to roll that over. So 217, we are rolling over $10, and we're going to zero that out. Okay, so this is essentially what I do on Thursday nights before I get paid. I look at, these are my, like I said, these are my cash envelopes, and I go through and I see what's left, and then I figure out what I am going to do with those funds. So $391 is going into my buffer. We're rolling over $50 for the next pay period for my car, and we're rolling over $10 for self-care. That will bring this to a 0. So of course, when we planned out everything for February 4th, you know, everything else has been taken care of. Bills are done, sinking funds are done, extra debt, extra savings, all of that is already done. I just needed to go through and see what we had left in the envelope section, which is what I just did. We brought that to a 0. And so starting tomorrow, February 18th, we will be fresh with new cash envelopes. So let's go ahead real quick and set that up as well. So I'm going to switch over, you know, it was Valentine's, so I'm going to switch over to my red pen since I used pink. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to, and go ahead and set up my cash envelopes for 2/18. So for 2/18, okay, so we're going to do spending 2/18. Of course, we zeroed it out previously, so this is going to be $200 because we're starting fresh. We're gonna hope for a better 2 weeks. Hopefully it won't get any worse. My goodness. And then for car, and this is also 2/18, but for car, let's see, that is going to be 100 again, because if you watch my last video, which was my budget goals for the 2/18, for the February 18th period, then you know that I'm giving myself 50, and of course you just saw that I'm rolling over 50, so that totals 100. And then we also do self-care, and for self-care we rolled over 10, and in my last budget video I've given myself 50, so for this one we're only going to have $60 in self-care for the February 18th pay period. So that is how we're going to do that. And then what I'll do, since I have 2 on this one page, then I go up here and I set up my car, and then I just come down some lines. I don't count or anything. I just come down maybe to about like maybe halfway down the page, and then I put self-care in this down here, and then I'll start tracking what I spend out of car, you know, of course in this section, and what I spend out of self-care down in this section. I typically don't have a whole lot of need a whole lot of lines for car and self-care, which is why I put them on the same page, because of course the Budget Mom does provide extra expense tracker pages, but I just like to keep everything, you know, so visible in a 2-page spread. Like when I open my book, I can clearly see both sides. So yeah, so I just put car and self-care together because I typically don't have that many lines. Now, as you saw before, you know, spending can get pretty long just depending on how I do. So that's why I put spending on a page by itself. But hopefully it won't be this long, and you know, we won't have as much spending going on over the next 2 weeks. So that is it, guys. That is me zeroing out. What I do is I go back and, you know, and I make sure I verify the amounts that I have here match up with what's left in my checking account. I verify that against my check register. I did that prior to this video, so I already know everything matches out. So once I transfer that $3.91 to my buffer, and then we account for the rollover, then we are all set to start fresh on February 18th. So guys, I hope that was pretty clear. I just wanted to come on and just show you how I close out my paychecks each pay period. Like I said, I do this typically on Thursday nights before I get paid. Oh, and one thing that I did want to mention is that the $20 miscellaneous that I gave myself on 2/4, you know, I always do the miscellaneous is in cash. The spending, car, and self-care, as you can see, are done on my trackers, but the miscellaneous is always cash that I give myself. And I actually did have that left. I still have the 20. I did not spend anything out of it this past pay period, so this will be put to the side for my mini savings challenge. Okay, and that will be coming up in a video soon. So that is it, guys. I hope this wasn't too scattered brain for you. This was a last minute decision to come on and record me actually closing out my previous pay period. So hopefully I wasn't all over the place and that made sense to you. But if you have any questions for me, please feel free to leave them below. And as always, please consider subscribing, commenting, liking, sharing this video. It helps to support my channel. So of course, I'd love to have you join me on this journey. So guys, please have a wonderful and blessed day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.